is white culture? What would you say? How would you describe English culture? What would you say?
I really can't answer that.
I haven't got a clue, really.
Tradition.
Well,
Routine.
I'm just going to say that.
Line dancing.
Line dancing.
And we set the standards for the rest of the world, well, we used to.
Until I made this journey, I thought white people were certain of themselves. They knew who they were.
We're treated like second-class citizens as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I mustn't say I'm white and I'm English, because that makes me a racist straight away.
We must have something, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
These are people who are in a crisis. Something is finished, there's nothing in its place, and anything can happen. Morning, people.
How are we?
Just got up, went to the laundry, had a shower. I'm ready to go. We're going to meet as many of the white tribe as we can.
Can we go to your house first?
Yes, come.
Some of the things I found on my journey through England were shocking. The old England of self-confidence, of people knowing who they are, knowing where they have come from, that's dead.
I never walk with a key.
And New Britain, that's just a figment of their imagination.
So how do you feel about this whole journey?
I'm a bit nervous about it. I don't know anybody who's done it before. But I feel confident. I've lived here for 28 years. I've lived in this country for close to 40 years. So I think I'm entitled to talk to whites about what I believe is a kind of crisis of identity. This is my son, my last boy, and he just got up. I'll tell you where I'm going, Mary. I'm going on a long journey to talk to English people about who they are and what they hope to be. I haven't had breakfast, so I hope we can have some toast and orange juice. What time is lunch?
I was born and I grew up in the Empire. And when I left Trinidad at 17, it was to England I was coming. That had been put into my head by my parents since I was 5 or 6. It was the greatest place in the world. And then I came to England, married an English woman, had children, brought them up here in England. But it seemed to everybody else, to white people, I was always British, never English. Back then, they took being white and its privileges in their stride. There was never any question of what being English was. They seemed to think they were born to rule. And then the sun set on the empire. And Scotland is now on its way to independence. So is Wales, and now the English are all alone. Crisis. Just one example. There's a church in my neighborhood in Brixton, and the church was the foundation of old England. There's just a handful of people there now, and out of that handful, a small handful of whites. And across the road, hundreds of young people, clubbing until 4 in the morning, hedonistic in behavior, licentious, dressed in the most skimpy outfits, so that you see before your face all the old traditions have disappeared.
2.4 children, things like that, that's typical English, and country houses and things like that. But it's not. In the real world, it's changed a hell of a lot.
You're very unusual. You don't look the normal way.
We're having fun.
Just having fun. Do you describe yourself as English?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, it means I was born in England and my parents are also born in England. English culture is very non-existent these days, really.
What strikes me is this country is full of English people who don't want to be English anymore. They are rejecting all that in favor of something more appealing, more European, more exciting, more international. I wanted to find white English culture, and I needed to talk to whites who weren't part of this Gucci and cappuccino crowd. I was driving out of London when I spotted the turnout for Southall, and I said to myself, this is exactly the right place to start the journey. In the last 30 or 40 years, England's cities have been utterly transformed by people like myself, West Indians and Asians. What has become of the whites in these places, where they are no longer the ethnic majority?
It's difficult to say that there is a white English culture. I'd say yes, I'm proud to be English, but not because I'm a white English person, but because I was born in England, I've lived in England all my life, and you should be proud of where you come from and where you've grown up. My name's Simon. I'm a white male that's grown up in Southall. I've lived here all my life. Family has always been in Southall. People see Southall as a bit of a dump. So you grew up in Southall, that's like, ugh. It's not too bad. This is my family. This is Leah, my little daughter. And this is my wife, Brandy, and the pet gerbils.
This must be one of the few places in England where white people are conscious of having a white skin. They are outnumbered 3 to 1. They can't take being white for granted. And especially on a day like this, when every Sikh in the neighborhood is out on the streets celebrating the festival of Vaisakhi.
It makes me very ashamed that all these people that have come to our country, that they can bring a religion and celebrate it, yet people that have been in this country since time began don't have the same amount of pride in their religion anymore, and they don't celebrate things in the same way. And our national day, St George's Day, it kind of just came, oh, it's St George's Day today, and then it's gone. There was no event or anything, which is shameful because it's something to be proud of, that we have a saint for our country and he has a day set aside for him. It's the only big event that's celebrated properly now is Christmas, because Easter, you buy an Easter egg, it's done. The thing that disappoints me is we're not as close as an Asian family in the fact that the grandparents, instead of sending them off to a nursing home, they build an extension and say, look, come and live with us, we'll look after you. It just doesn't happen in white families as often.
Walking around with a young English man, my instinct is sympathy.
This is a state that I grew up in. I had a few Asian friends, not a great deal. A lot of the time was spent playing football, but other than that, there wasn't much that was done. We have got a community centre, but very few people use it. You get a bit of crime. There's a lot of drug dealing goes on in the area, a bit of petty theft, but nothing really more serious than the biggest problem in the area is the drug dealing.
It looks rather bleak around here, isn't it?
It's a bit dull, yeah.
So where can we have lunch?
The best place for lunch around here is pubs. There's a lot of Indian restaurants, but as I say, you don't really go out for a meal in Southall unless you want Indian.
So I don't feel for curry today, so...
Sounds like it's a pub then.
It looks like a pub.
OK.
Chips with everything.
Chips with everything. Chips with chips in this area. English food is bland. Pretty much every meal I can think of that's traditionally English has a very bland tasting meat that's been cooked in a very similar way. Quetch pie and shepherd's pie. It's the same thing, only with carrots in.
I was about his age when I first came to England, and I was convinced that this was one of the greatest civilizations in history. And 40 years on, he feels he has nothing to be proud of. Here is a young man surrounded by people full of certainty, full of bounce and colour. And he doesn't know who he is.
In a way, it would be interesting to find out what it would have been like to grow up in a predominantly white society, just to see how it had turned out, to see the white English culture. But as if you went to somewhere that was cut off from the rest of the world, where they've been left in their ways and they haven't changed in 50 years.
Why do white people, English people, feel their culture is so vulnerable? It was time to get out of London and begin my journey into England. I wanted to go to somewhere that was slightly off limits, where there were no black people. And I chose Newcastle because it is one of the whitest of cities.
Right, we're going to go straight on, left, right, or go over the roundabout? To the right. Should I go in that way?
City centre.
Left, right?
No, out there.
City centre.
I was nervous. I was in alien territory. I didn't know this place. I took a bit of Brixton with me to watch my back.
What, left, right?
But we can't go right.
No, no right turn. Why didn't you say so? Where we go, right?
I don't know.
Who's directing? We're going to go left,
and
yeah?
See if you can go around and come back up that street.
Where?
But you can't go there, it's no entry.
Except buses.
The England I arrived in 40 years ago was an England of workers. That's what struck me first. These people worked hard, harder than I'd ever seen anyone work.
No, we can't do it right, so we've got to go straight on. No, we can't go straight on. I think we can.
Well, if you go right, that's where we were just now.
So we go back this way and go back that way.
Yeah. How do we get down there? It's down there we want to go, don't we?
Is it?
I don't know.
We're in a circle here. Where are we going?
I know that Newcastle was once a city of shipyards and coal mining, heavy industry. But of course, that has gone now. What has come in its place? What's going on there?
Nothing.
Nothing. Dead end. Being from Newcastle is much more than being part of England. It's a kind of tribe of its own.
Yeah, just needs to get it done.
Huh? Are you Geordies or what?
Geordies.
What is a Geordie? Well, what is a Geordie?
Us.
No, I mean...
hard people.
Hard.
Rock solid.
Huh?
Rock solid.
Rock solid. Hard.
Chavas, aye. Smackheads.
Yeah?
Aye. You haven't heard of Daisy Hill yet, have you? Very well.
You think you're different from other people?
No, just harder. Harder than
Harder?
Aye.
Harder than Manu?
Aye. They're puffs, man.
What are they?
Puffs.
Puffs? Oh, yeah.
Who do you support?
Who?
The Man United.
Manu.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're for I can't. See you later.
Bye.
Man United.
And what were the Geordies doing on the Saturday that I was there? They were looking at a game of football. Manchester United were in town playing Newcastle. By the time we got there, it was all over for the Magpies. Manchester had beaten them. Dwight York and Andy Cole, the two black guys from Manchester United, they had been working miracles. I was the only black man in that huge crowd. And the waves and waves and waves and waves and waves and waves of Geordies looking very glum. I'm at the bottom of the stairs. And I thought perhaps they'd be hostile to me.
I was frightened. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I found myself just watching them, almost like specimens, a mass of white faces involved in a strange ritual. As I stood there, I felt like one of those white explorers who travel the globe studying exotic cultures.
This is not a vicious, racist population. This is a population that has been moving slowly away from a kind of chauvinistic, historical infection. I had heard before that there was a place called the Big Market in the center of the city that came alive. It's strictly in the Newcastle tradition. Saturday football, and in the night the pubs. And I thought, there is this subdued crowd. What can there be later in the evening with an equally subdued crowd? Walked down the Big Market. I saw them and I thought, lots of women, girls by themselves. Obviously licentious, a licentious attitude. One girl lifted up her miniskirt and showed some other guy her ass as if to say, "We'll see it here." And I thought, this is England, what's happening? This kind of reserved English woman that I used to know, that's dead. And I was mobbed.
It was a kind of carnival spirit. And I thought, well, this is the Caribbean. But we had something to celebrate freedom from slavery, carnival. And I was wondering, well, what is there to celebrate here? They kept banging into my head the word Geordie, Geordie, Geordie. But what does it mean?
You've got to have the passion. You can't have the passion.
If you don't have the passion, you don't have the game.
When you go to St James's, a week got the semi-finals FA Cup. If you've been there on Sunday, the passion absolutely electric. You can get to Old Trafford, you can get the new cup in Barcelona. You can't have the passion, mate.
Passion.
Can't have the passion.
They passion. It's Jordan boys.
We're going to Wembley.
All it seemed to be about was football and beer. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps that is all that is left of white working class culture in a city like this when you take the work away. Football and beer. It was as though they were drowning their sorrows. There seemed to me a celebration of nothingness. I'd come here to discover the English. But they were not English at all, they were Geordies. Their loyalty was to their team and to their city. England for them was another country. If you really want to find the real England, this must be where to come. This is the England I'm looking for on the journey, but also the England of my dreams, the England that I dreamt about in Trinidad. Stowe on the wall. It's classically English. It's warm, it's beautiful. It has the stamp of England on it, irremovable. I felt pretty much at home. This is a rural town, and rural folk in a rural town, miles and miles away from London, have a certain attitude. They would be more anti-metropolis than anti-black. I suppose if 10 million of us move in here and want to change the character, they'll get uptight. But once we have some sense of the place, I think they say, hi, hello, how are you? Good morning, Mr. Howe. I wonder whether I could get some scones, nice scones, with a bit of the old butter and a bit of the old jam on it. I wonder if I can get that.
But now, right in the heart of Middle England, I found a taste for the continent. The first pub I saw was called a brasserie. And you couldn't get a ploughman's lunch. You got a baguette, you got a ciabatta.
I'm assuming that you all know how to taste wine the correct way. The first thing that you're looking for is going to be the colour, to get the bouquet coming out of it so that you will then get the nose.
And then it became even stranger. I came across a group of white people. They looked professional, middle-class whites. They were just learning about wine, and it seemed innocuous enough until I realized that even here, in the heart of England, their affections lie elsewhere.
How many of you go to Burgundy?
France now seems to be as England was in 1955, 1960. Very quiet, very laid back, and very relaxing.
Who goes 3 times a year?
They seem to run at a much slower pace.
If lunch takes 3 hours, so what?
6?
Oh, no, it is a love affair. It's just something that's... It grows on you.
Once a month?
To go to France, it's a therapy. It's escapism. It's like reading a good book, only it's a little bit more fun because it's interactive.
I don't think it's running away from anything in England. It's running to a quality of life that seems to me to be better in France.
Why do you think at this particular time you're expressing this rejection of your own country?
I love England.
If you had to choose.
We could choose to live in France.
None of these people would own up to rejecting English culture, but I've met middle-class people like this before. They always liked something exotic. I mean, they liked me when I arrived. And slowly, this Middle England that appears so reliable is being eradicated.
We are losing our identity. It's becoming such a nebulous, jelly-like thing. What is Englishness? I don't know anymore. Well, I thought I did, but it seems so sad that we can't actually make more of our identity. I mean, one thinks back to the time of England and twin sets and pearls and stereotypes like that, but we must have something, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
I left the Cotswolds surprised, a little bewildered. But in no way was I prepared for what I was about to encounter in Birmingham.
One of the motivations for coming on this journey is to find out, perhaps one of the first black persons ever to do this, to go to all little nooks and crannies of this place, talk to people, find out who they are, what they're doing, what they are doing.
It's exercise and meet great people when I come out, and I like to have fun. It's one way of expressing myself, I suppose.
It's mainly to do with the music. I got into it because of the music. I just love the music.
It's the company. It's definitely the company, the people. People say to us, "You're going out again?" I say, "Yeah." They say to me, "What have you been doing?" And I say, "Line dancing."
Very strange. Walked into typical English suburb, a community centre in that suburb, and there it was decorated with the Confederate flag, which almost destroyed America. With the line dancing, I looked at them, and what struck me
is that old England has gone.
Britain has got to change to be like America. A lot of people now go to the States on holiday, and that sets the standard of what they want and what they expect now. It's like me, I come back and I think, well, if they don't help me in house with my shopping, I'm disappointed. If I had the chance, I'd go to America. I'd love it that much, I really would. She's got everything there at once. Basketball there. I just like the lifestyle. I like the sport, the shopping, the food. It's just an easy way of life. Oh, I love it. It's a way to live, I think.
One of the things I think people are practicing is the art of leisure. What to do with my time. Corporations are setting up the infrastructure for it already. In Birmingham, I was surrounded by Thatcher's working class who wanted to exercise their customer choice, whatever that is. They didn't want any smelly rose and crown with sawdust on the floor. They wanted chrome and marble.
There are things that are very easily exportable from America and that people enjoy. People have less and less time today, and if they can come into an environment where all the shops are there, where it's clean, it's secure, it's warm, it's very easy to move round, it's well signposted, they'll use it. What we're trying to create is an environment that people really want, that they enjoy utilising. Most of our retailers are independently owned. Crafty Marks and Spencer's here. At the end of the day, we have nice home furnishing stores, enhance the facilities, responsibility to the environment, existing traditional town centres, the biggest within the Midlands, incredibly popular with consumers, fairly average profile in the morning, doing incredibly well, utilised sensitively.
I know that you're a marketing person.
One of the important things at the end of the day that we've got to realise is that life goes on. It doesn't stand still. At the end of the day,
I'd managed to find a place where the English don't even speak English anymore. It's some kind of marketing gobbledygook. Things that got that bad.
It's a bit of a leisure occupation, especially for mothers with young children and also for the children themselves.
So that you could go to Birmingham, you go into a mall and you go into America. And then when you go outside of there, you see what globalization does. The old high street and all of that dead.
Have your Dunkin' Donuts and your McDonald's and all those, you know.
We eat American food. We've got quite a big restaurant up in Shirley now. You can get hamburgers or you can get a decent meal, you know, you can get a proper meal, depends on you. They've got the casino up there. It's American style.
I went to this restaurant, it was like Las Vegas, but packed with Burmese. I think it was one of the worst places I've been in my life. There was a buzz at the basketball, but this place was just depressing.
I like coming down here for the food because it's very much an American style. And we do enjoy things American. We went to Las Vegas a couple of years ago and it's certainly same sort of theme, but much smaller. I suppose in a couple of hours we got through about £50, and that's not including the food.
They were filling their faces on junk food, pouring money down slot machines. It was like they were sick, and this was the cure. They couldn't get enough of it. Birmingham is America. Birmingham is a Yankee town.
Birmingham is not New York, but at the same time, it has a lot of the traits, it has a lot of the potential. I mean, particularly the food at the American restaurants, there are a lot of them.
It's a comfort level for us because that's where we came from. So when I need to find something, I can always go to an American restaurant, or American bar, or movies, or bowling, or whatever else they have in the States. So I feel comfortable. I haven't found the traditional English things yet, but I'm all right with it.
Have you ever eaten shepherd's pie?
Shepherd's pie, no, but I know what it is. Ever since I've been here, I haven't ventured to taste it.
Did you expect it? This tremendous support?
Normally, English people aren't supposed to be vocal and loud. They're more reserved. So when you see them coming and the kids screaming at the game and they can get a chance to let their hairs down and they do it, that's a big surprise.
It's like America.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You lived in Bracknell before.
I would say Bracknell is what I would call traditionally English to me, because it's not too far from Ascot. So, you know, the Queen spends time there, so there's a lot of pubs there. I could get a roast dinner there if I wanted to. I'm sure I could find some restaurants. I can't find that here. But they had a bowling alley as well.
In Bracknell?
Yeah, so it's coming. You know, all the things are coming. Pizza Hut, all those places are coming.
And I left Birmingham with a huge sadness. I was feeling disoriented. I'd lost my way. I didn't know what I could expect next. Was I really still in England? I came upon a band of young women gathered before the most licentious and obscene group of men taking their clothes off. The men were black, the girls were white. What are you expecting tonight? Would you tell me? Tell me, don't be shy.
Nice, liking people. Men, yes.
Yeah, we want some men.
But they're all black men.
Oh yeah, very nice. They look very attractive. What I've seen of them. Yeah.
Look how fit they look.
And if you like them chocolate coloured, you are going to love them this evening. Although I must confess, I am colour prejudiced. I do prefer black cock.
The first thing that struck me is if Enoch Powell saw that show, he would have died on the spot. And even if he hadn't seen it, he's turning in his grave right now. And these girls said blatantly, they came to see black men. They like the touch of their skins and so on, and the size of the penis.
Black skin has got a more sort of elasticity to it.
Erotic, sexy, muscly. Amazing.
Working class women who are completely free from the constraints of religion, of Victorian mannerisms, of corsets and chastity belts, and all the traditional things that they wear to keep their loins and their desires at a low temperature.
It's about time the men got their bits out, isn't it? Because women have been doing it for years.
They are not embarrassed by it. They seem to think it as of right that they look at whatever and do whatever they want to do. That's very striking. And long may it proceed.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Love with you. Oh, baby.
White men, when they strip, tend to look puny, whereas black men tend to look fun and muscly and just, you know, just, you could, French.
Let me ask, you think girls here would go home with them?
No. Yeah,
No.
I think some would. So, I think over there. People over there, they would, yeah, definitely.
Oh, baby.
You seem quite comfortable with that.
Yeah, we're getting more open in England now, aren't we, really? People in America and places like that will think that we're all stuck up. And they think that we all live in big mansions in London somewhere and go to private schools. And it's just not like that at all. We're turning into America, aren't we, really?
This isn't Brixton or Handsworth, it's Peterborough, a funny little place with nothing to boast about since they built the cathedral. About the men, when I first came here 40 years ago, I could not conceive of black men doing that without the place being burnt down. If you went out with a white girl, you walked behind her in the street, lest you were attacked. And coming from my honeymoon, my wife and I, we were stopped by a police officer. And the assumption was that if a black man was walking the street with a white woman, he had abducted her. So in that sense, there is a tolerance from white men who stand around and look at it and sometimes must have felt a sense of humiliation. But that's all part of the dance. That's part of the dance. Skegness. He told you about Smalling too? Yes. It's an old, bedraggled English seaside resort in Lincolnshire. There has never been a place on its last legs like Skegness. In the summer, heaps and heaps and heaps of working class English people travel from God knows where to spend a little weekend here. Their parents did it, their grandparents did it, and the great-grandparents did it. Who would choose this over Florida? It looks as though it's on its last legs. It makes you long for McDonald's and line dancing. And I understand equally now why people chose all these things over an England that's dying. We discovered that there was going to be a Conservative Party annual dinner. I came out of my hotel And then you walk into something called the Imperial Palace. You know, there's this huge name for a little place.
Well, I've come to visit the Conservative Party. I mean, I've read about the ministers, but I've never met the party itself. It'll be a pleasure to meet them.
I'll just introduce you to the chairman of the branches.
There's some drinks there. We're almost about ready to go up though, so I've forgotten your name.
Darcus Howe.
Howe.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Howe. It's Darcus Howe.
He's actually partaking of the meal with us, and then I've met
I'm going around talking to English people to discover what Englishness exists and in what form.
It's an intriguing question. If the United Kingdom breaks up, if Scotland goes off,
yes,
then the intriguing question is, what happens to being British?
But he was thinking on his feet, you see. He was thinking on his feet. I got the impression afterwards he's trying to work something out in this huge crisis that people like Tebbit are in.
Clearly you're not English.
Why not?
But you are British.
Who said that?
Well, English is...
Peregrine says I'm quintessentially English. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, well, I'm talking now of the ethnics of it.
You mean colour?
No, not colour, ethnic. So, you know, I'm ethnically English, you're not ethnically English. But we're both British.
Yeah.
That's what we share. So if you lose the concept of Britishness, it's a rather divisive thing, because that's what we've got in common.
So what happens to me? I came here as an
My friend Nerj Divas, for example, it was he who first put it to me. He said, you know, what happens to me? I'm British.
One thing about what Lord Tebbit said that had me feeling a little sleepless last night, and he said, well, where does that leave me as a black person? Or a friend of his in the House of Lords who's Asian. And he was, I said, so I could be English, no problem with me. He said, no, you're not ethnically right as to be English. You can't be.
I come from an immigrant family. My great-great-something grandfather arrived here from the Low Countries in the 17th century. And I'm always very grateful for that, because otherwise I would have been born a Belgian.
It is an extraordinary thing from a government which is always talking about the new millennium and these wonderful things of being modern and trendy and cool and up to date. If anybody knows about cool Britannia, it should be you at Skegness, not you. There is a threat now from Europe that the principles which were set out in Magna Carta should go, because they are not European. Here we've got the Scots trying to row their own boat away from us. Even the Welsh muttering about paddling their coracle away in a different direction.
Lord Tebbit was responsible for the destruction of the trade unions in England. His ministry passed a law to facilitate American capital, to facilitate Japanese capital. But that's what they believed. I'm not questioning them on that, but if that's what they believed, that's what they did. And open up the place to huge globalization. He facilitated the intense globalization that swept through England and destroyed all semblance of national capital.
If we lose those, what are we? We're a satrapy, a province, ruled by foreigners.
Yet, his speech was based on Little England, which he himself wiped out. and which now himself was seeking to restore.
We are quite late on in the battle to save our country. The danger is upon us, and it is almost too late. Our duty now is to awaken this nation in time.
He almost, last night in his speech, called for a mobilization. Let's fight them on the beaches. Let's fight them here. Let's fight them there. He had already admitted it. He's a refugee from Europe, but now he doesn't want to go back where he came from. Is there an identity crisis? I want to ask you that pretty straight.
I think there is a bit of an identity crisis. We've become a much more mobile population, and that's part of it, because our Englishness was always attached to the village or the county, things of that kind. You'll find even today that if you look for Tebbits in the phone book, there are almost none anywhere except in East Anglia. But that's changing, and I think that adds to the difficulty of defining just what is English. It used to be our local family, and now it's something different.
The man who told us to get on your bike.
Of course, in war, it rapidly comes back. We are the English against the others. But we've had 50 years of peace, and that makes it more difficult to define what is the English consciousness.
Is it the only way that you can be English is to be hostile to somebody who is not?
Oh no, I'm not hostile to foreigners. Far from it.
We are now saying, aren't we, you and I, it seems, that there is this period of transition where we are not sure what Englishness is.
I think that's right. I think it has some dangers, because people who are confident in their identity and their personality, who know where their family came from and know their neighbours, are generally secure and reasonably well behaved. It is when people are insecure that you have the possibility of social breakdown.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lord Tebbit was talking about social breakdown, and I was ready for home. I had no idea that nail bombs were about to go off in Brixton, in Bricklane and Soho, all in the name of nationalism.
The other night that John Aspinall and Ken Livingstone are friends.
For the first time on my journey, I am beginning to question whether Englishness is ever again going to be a feature of the landscape. This landscape here, it looks so passé that you know something is going to happen here. I mean, the England that brought me here, I've witnessed its destruction at every turn. The old rituals are gone, the old traditions have gone, valued customs have gone, and there are people now who are abandoning ship. And what I'm looking for next is people who are proud to be English, maybe even proud to be white. That's the next stage of my journey.
Next week, Darcus finds a new English Pride brewing, White Tribe, next Thursday at 9 on 4. And still to come tonight, capturing the spirit of a man who not only drank it, but exuded it, the real Oliver Reed.